Hey guys, what's up? Sando here, and today I'll be testing probably the sexiest looking DAC and headphone amplifier combo of Aune Audio that is called X1s GT. I have already tested their S6 Pro, S7 Pro and S8, and I know how crazy they are about sound quality, so I expect some great things coming out of this unit. So this is not your regular op-amp based DAC and headphone amplifier combo. It uses only discrete components, so it's something else. Only bipolar transistors to be more precise, so you can expect plenty of warmth and plenty of musicality coming out of it. It goes only for $320, and sincerely I expected a slightly higher price point. But would it be another flavor of the month or a really great sounding combo just below $400? Let's find that out together.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless.
We are talking about an 8th generation DAC amp from Aune Audio that follows some design cues of its predecessors, but since this is their first fully discrete headphone amplifier, a GT moniker and plenty of red accents were added, which are looking quite nice in person. That lit bright red volume wheel is cool to look at, and I really dig its clean and minimalist look. It has this soft and velvety texture that is pleasant to touch, and it should repel a few scratches. It seems to be milled on a CNC machine with just 2 panels attached on its front and back, which makes it look simple yet futuristic. There are 4 silicone feet under it that will be absorbing tiny vibrations, and I really cannot complain about its top-notch build quality. As for controls, you can spot an input button on its front, which also works as a digital filter switch. You have a 4.4mm balanced output and a regular 1/4-inch headphone jack. And lastly, a huge volume wheel that offers a lesser resistance, so please be careful when IEMs are attached to it. The big surprise was taking a glance on its back panel, as besides the usual USB, coaxial, optical, fixed and variable analog outputs, there is also a 10 MHz clock input, which you cannot see that often in modern DACs. If you'd like to further elevate its performance, Aune Audio recommends adding their XC1 clock generator for a higher fidelity. Under its hood is where all the magic happens, and I believe that as of right now it doesn't have a fierce competition. While a flagship ES9038 DAC chip isn't really something new, a custom-designed PLL core and 4 digital filters is something new. And instead of using the stock ESS Sabre filters, Aune made their own digital filters, out of which 2 are tailored for loudspeakers and 2 for headphone listening. The cool part doesn't stop here, as instead of going with regular op-amps, Aune retrofitted it with 4 quad mono modules crafted only from discrete components. Each module uses 24 bipolar transistors, and we have 4 of them for a fully balanced headphone amplifier section. While on paper it doesn't look that powerful with only 1.2 watts per channel and 32 ohms via its balanced output, this is a much higher quality power compared to op-amp based amplifiers, and that makes me quite excited. And lastly, due to its smaller enclosure, it was decided powering it with an external switching mode power supply from Meanwell, which already proved itself reliable and noise-free on topping and SMSL devices. Okay guys, this is pretty much it, so let's hit some eardrums. First and foremost, if you'll be using it with headphones, then please use its 4.4mm balanced output, because it's considerably more powerful that way, and of course you'll be unleashing the full power of those 4 quad mono amplifier modules. Secondly, you should change that standard filter with pure mode filter, because not only it sounds more transparent and more detailed, but also lusher, more organic and more liquid in a way. That was quite a big change, and you should do that just immediately. A few months ago I reviewed a topping EX5 DAC and headphone amplifier combo that was going for $350, And while it was a good sounding unit at that price point, I believe that X1s GT is just a better sounding unit altogether. That slight treble edge of EX5 and that dry mid-range of EX5 is just no more in here. And of course, Aune just planted a little bit more life in here, so there is more mid-range density, there is a better impact in the bass, but just slashing gently that treble output. This shouldn't come as a surprise because most of their creations are going towards musicality and towards a higher engagement factor. And of course, this is not your dead neutral, your linear DAC and headphone amplifier combo, but more like on the opposite camp, just delivering a fuller bass performance, a denser mid-range performance, while gently slashing treble glare and all that listening fatigue. Although there is an ESS Sabre DAC inside, due to a custom PLL and those custom digital filters, it doesn't sound like one, so it sounds more lusher, more natural, more easygoing. And there is also one interesting effect that I've observed. Once I'm going much louder, so past 100 dB, all that is just not bothersome. So it's still quite gentle, it's still quite easygoing, even if I'm blasting full power into my ears. A very interesting effect that I didn't experience out of its competition, for example. There is just one thing that bothers me, and that is power output. While it worked well with most of my headphones, so it drove most of them, but not all of them, it didn't work that well with several planar magnetic headphones. For example, HiFiMan Aria Stealth, Odyssey LCD4, and of course you can forget about HiFiMan Susvara. It just didn't have enough headroom. Otherwise, it's a really fun sounding DAC amp combo that fully preserves the soul of the music. In terms of power output, I will just cut to the chase and tell you right away that headphones like Sandy Peacock, RZH Phobos, HiFiMan HE1000 SE and Kennerton Rognir worked just outstanding, and more demanding headphones like Odyssey LCD4 and to a lesser degree HiFiMan Aria Stealth were just okay but not really amazing. All my dynamic driver headphones were fully driven, so I didn't have a problem driving them all. There was plenty of power remaining on top, and once your headphones are fully driven, just expect a higher engagement factor, especially in the bass and mid-range, because this is where it shines brighter to say a topping EX5. The absolute best pairing was with the Kennerton Rognir because it added so much impact, so much life into them that unwillingly I started shaking my head on my rock and electronica tunes. And of course 1.2 watts is still plenty of power for most headphones, but still the most demanding planar headphones weren't that visceral, weren't that impactful to me. Especially LCD4 were lacking nerve and impact compared to what I'm usually getting from big amplifiers, but hey, at $320 it still performed above my expectations. Moving on to noise floor, Aune is mentioning a noise floor of 4 microvolts on its regular headphone jack, and they are not telling anything about its balanced output. So 4 microvolts is still a very low number, but THX AAA and NFC amplifier modules have it lower, about twice as low. You should also need to know that it doesn't have a gain switch, so be extra careful when using IEMs because you can blast a lot of power into them. My usual listening level is somewhere in between 9 and 10 o'clock, so not a lot of room to play with. And also on its lowest volume position, I could still hear music playing in the background, so it isn't really a biggie for me, but maybe it is for you. Luckily, with the most sensitive IEMs that I have at my disposal, on the 4.4mm balanced output, on my usual listening level, so never going past 100 dB, I couldn't spot nothing really, so no noises, nothing like that, just a black background, just no noises. It was dead silent with IEMs. When I was going much higher, of course, with my music on pause, I could hear some white noise, but at that volume nobody could listen to music. So I still think that GT is an IEM-friendly amplifier, even if there isn't a gain switch. Moving on to Soundstage, if you want the lowest possible channel crosstalk and the widest left-right sound, simply use its balanced connection for the best results. And in my view, it offers an above decent Soundstage size, so it was more or less on the same level with something like X-Duo XA10, but it was bigger, it was deeper and wider sounding compared to topping EX5. So there is a decent amount of note separation and it never sounded on stage, but it still wasn't on the same level with the big guys like Ferrum War, like Bar Solis GT, or like the Soundstage King Flux Labs Volot. Still, in my view, it sounded quite bigger compared to op-amp based amplifiers like those of SMSL and Topping, and with open back headphones I could still pick up notes from the air without too much trouble. It was by a hair more impressive in here to entry-level THX AAA amplifiers, so you can still expect a decently layered sound, especially with jazz, blues and live recordings. Moving on to detail retrieval, I believe that this part is what makes it quite different sounding compared to other DAC amp combos. So those all discrete amplifier modules and those custom digital filters made it quite easygoing, quite relaxed sounding in here, and no matter how high you are raising that volume, it will always remain quite gentle sounding, almost ethereal sounding at times. You can almost forget about strong leading edges, about very defined contours of the notes, or about revealing the last drop of information to you, because such things simply don't matter to units like this. The way those details are being delivered is slightly more important, and this is where it will impress you right away with its lack of distortions and with those creamy and dense sounding textures. And what else would you expect out of an all-discrete headphone amplifier, right? So it will not show you the tiniest details because you'll be adding a beautifying filter on top. And you should really make up your mind, so are you after an ultimate transparency or are you after an entertaining type of sound that always makes you move and smile? X1s GT will not win the measurement war, but it will surely pump a lot of positive vibes into your tunes. Moving on to frequency response, I've immediately felt that it rounds a little bit the bass, so it's very powerful in here, it's very impactful and punchy, but it's not really the fastest or the sharpest or the most detailed bass that I've heard. So it's more impressive when it comes to quantity and less so when it comes to quality. Nonetheless, it was a very fun and engaging type of bass. It was slightly elevated, but who cares, it was really fun sounding. Kenaton Rognir and Apus Caspian sounded if put on bigger amplifiers, and the amount of impact that was coming out of them was just out of this world. So there is definitely a lot of life and fun factor to be had with GT. For me personally, the star of the show is not its bass output, but mostly its mid-range performance, because it sounded just fuller in here compared to op-amp based amplifiers, to THX AAA, to NFC amplifiers. And at first it might appear at a slightly elevated mid-range performance, but no, this is how all discrete amplifiers are sounding. And I'm getting a similar vibe out of top class amplifiers like Ferrum War, like Bar Solis GT, like Flux Volot. There is just more emotions, a longer vibration, just an added weight to those voices, violins, guitars, everything just flows more naturally. And if you have some linear sounding headphones, like Hi-Fi for example, it will just infuse more life into that mid-range. Hi-Fi headphones will usually impress you with their technicalities, but you will need a warmer sounding source and amplifier, and this is where GT fits in like a glove. Its treble output is not your usual ESS Sabre affair, especially on that pure mode filter, because again it was just easygoing, quite gentle sounding in here. There is no brightness, there is no listening fatigue, and this kind of treble output just helps me cope with brightness with linear sounding headphones like Hi-Fi. Literally transforming bright sounding headphones, just making them more manageable and a lot more pleasant in late night listening sessions. No comparisons for today, but I can say with confidence that at this price point there isn't a DAC amp that sounds so easygoing, so fun and so natural. The only real competitor is actually X-Duo XA10, but that one is considerably more expensive. As for my conclusion, if your headphones are fully driven by it, then I really have no complaints. So it's small, it's cute, it's really well made, and most importantly, it sounds great, just fully retaining the soul of your music and putting fun factor as its #1 priority. Its bass slam, higher mid-range presence and warmth are its biggest values that simply cannot be overlooked. And considering I'm dealing with a fully discrete amp stage and modified digital section, it's my pleasure recommending the Aune X1s GT as a joyride for headphone enthusiasts. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as usual, listen to my music, be positive, and I'll see you around.